Joel Embiid and the Sixers, they took on the Raptors last night. We picked things up here in the second quarter. Sixers up by 3. Embiid drives, finishes, nice reverse layup. Fantastic finish by Embiid here. Sixers would trail by 3 at the break. So now we go to the fourth quarter, under 7 minutes to play. Sixers down 3 still here, and Embiid drives, somehow gets it to go, and the foul. After the made free throw now, we're all tied up at 82 apiece. So under 3 to play, Raptors up 1. That's Siakam. Fadeaway, jumper, that's good. Siakam would finish with 26 points, and the Raptors go up by 3. 7 seconds left, Sixers down 2. Harden drives, and he's called for the charge here. And man, this is really untimely with time winding down. And not only is he called for a charge, but it's deemed a flagrant 1 on Harden. Raptors would hold on to win 93-88. And so Tim Legler joins us now. Sixers were outscored 24-14 in the fourth quarter last night. Is this a blip, or is this something we should be worried about, Legs?
No, that was as bad an offensive quarter as I've seen all year from any team in the NBA. That kind of ball security that you lack, not getting field goal attempts, being too Harden-centric in their offense. To me, this is a formula for disaster for Philadelphia if they operate their offense in key moments like this. In a one-possession game, you've got to continue to move the basketball. You've got to continue to play fast and play through Joel Embiid more often. I think in the mid-post to low post, he has a tendency to drift out onto the perimeter because he wants to touch the basketball. When they get caught up in letting James Harden play the same way that he played in Houston, which is basically all high ball screen or ISOs, they're going to get in trouble because you're going to see teams load up on him. They don't have a ton of shooting around James Harden on that team. They're not very deep. So now you really are relying on Harden basically to just own the game possession by possession. And it's a formula to get them bounced early in the postseason. So right now, the verdict very much out on this team. I think the key is Tyrese Maxey. He has got to be more involved in key moments. He checked back into the game last night, Shea, with 7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. He did not have any bearing whatsoever on the offense the rest of the game, except for a meaningless dunk with 8 seconds to go. He is your next best offensive player. You've got to continue to include him. And I think he's so young, sometimes he defers to the stars, and they get very predictable. So right now, I'm concerned. They're not very deep, and they're very predictable when the game is on the line. It's something they're going to have to try to get tightened up here before they get into the postseason.
Well, yeah, and if you're going to rely on the stars, if the Sixers are, then James Harden needs to be better, specifically in the fourth quarter. He played 9 minutes, didn't make a shot, and turned the ball over 4 times. How concerned are you with this, what we saw from Harden down the stretch?
Yeah, I am concerned because I think, again, he's not at the James Harden level that he was in Houston at his peak, when really he overwhelmed any matchup in front of him. You know, listen, guards, it's attrition. He's got a lot of mileage on those legs. It's a little bit more difficult for him to do that at this stage of his career. When you want to play that way, when you've got 5 sets of eyes just trained on you, knowing that everything is going to happen from 30, 35 feet out with a live dribble, it's easy for teams then to force you into tough spots on the court. He was very careless with the basketball last night. They did not get shots. 14 points in that quarter in a game really against Toronto that you're in control of. It's a one-possession game at home. You've got the 2 best offensive players on the court. You should win that game. They don't even get quality looks. So, no, there's no question. It's concerning with who they're going to have to face in the postseason defensively. This is how you're going to operate your offense in key moments. That's a problem.
The postseason. What about tonight? They face the Heat tonight. Better get things figured out with the quickness. All right, let's go from the East now to the West because we must talk about LeBron James because, you know, this is get up. On Saturday night in D.C., LeBron James became the NBA's second leading scorer all time, passing Hall of Famer Karl Malone. LeBron James finished with 38 points in a 127-119 loss to the Wizards, and the Lakers now fell to 11 games under 500. Yes, this is great, okay? LeBron passed a big milestone. Wonderful. But here we are talking about the Lakers still. And it's just not enough, though, for LeBron to put this team on his back and for them to get wins. We saw it again on Saturday night. This
is a team that defensively, they just don't instill fear in anybody. So regardless of the gaudy numbers LeBron is putting up, and he's had nights, even like last night, where Westbrook also plays well. It's just not enough because they can't stop anybody. This team defensively is so porous that everybody that plays them feels like they can get into a rhythm. Guys make shots. Guys become better offensive players than they typically are because they're so confident they're not going to see any real pressure or physicality out of the Lakers defensively. So that's really their biggest issue. Now, LeBron has been absolutely spectacular. It defies logic to see a guy in this sport be this good at this age and put up these kind of numbers. It's taken a toll on him, I think, mentally and physically. He's trying to do everything he can right now to put this entire team on his back offensively, and it's still not leading to the type of wins to make you think they can survive the play-in. They're in real trouble to get into that 9-10 matchup right off the bat and go home after one game. I know Anthony Davis could be around the corner, but Anthony Davis is a Band-Aid. He's not a tourniquet. And that's what this team is going to need.
Not a what?
A tourniquet.
I don't even know what that is.
Stop the bleeding. That's something you put on somebody when they're bleeding profusely.
Got it.
You use a tourniquet to stop the bleeding.
Band-Aid I was familiar with. Right. Tourniquet, not so much.
Sorry to go all Civil War on you. I apologize for that.
Got it.
But AD is not all of that, and he's not going to have enough time to really get his legs under him. So it's a concern, even thinking that trap of, well, once we get AD, we're going to be fine. They fell into that trap last year, and they got bounced in the first round coming out of the 7th spot against a really good team. Even if they survive the play-in, I don't see them beating any of those teams at the top of the West, but I think legitimately they could be going home after their first game.
Yeah, I mean, they have a 2-game cushion or something like that right now, and we don't know when Anthony Davis is coming back, and like you said, he could be a Band-Aid. We'll leave.
Deshaun Watson outsourced a private investigator who checked this out, knowing that they could stay with Baker Mayfield, but let's look at our options here. Things have not gone so well. Then they were told last week, we're out on Deshaun Watson. Then Baker Mayfield requests the trade. They were still thinking, hey, we can reconcile with Mayfield at that point.
Right.
Friday morning, I was told, that's when the Browns got clarity that Watson could have a change of heart here and would be open to going to Cleveland. His criteria was to win. He did like the roster, like Kevin Stefanski. Make no mistake, the contract got this over the finish line, $230 million in guaranteed money. But the Browns felt like late in the game, they got clarity here. They can make this work. But they had been looking into Watson for a very long time, knowing that they felt like they were a piece away. And talking to execs around the league, they believe that is true, that maybe this has a Matthew Stafford-type impact on this team.
Interesting. So actually, it was Mayfield who ended up helping out Watson when all was said and done. Swaggy, what was your reaction when all of this went down?
I was actually shocked, and it was a late development with him going to Cleveland. Obviously, we had locked in on Atlanta and potentially New Orleans as those landing spots, but obviously what Jeremy just said about Baker Mayfield's reaction and then the money, right? Like, let's not fool ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. $230 million for Deshaun Watson in this deal, and there's a lot going on. This is not just about this contract. This is also about Cleveland and the league and figuring out what they're going to do from a personal conduct policy standpoint and how long they'll have to wait for Deshaun Watson to suit up. He still has 22 civil lawsuits against him. So when you start thinking about this particular season and how this may put Cleveland on the hump, he may not be available to Cleveland for a large majority of the season. So this is banking on down the road. This is also a part of the Cleveland Browns never being able to find a quarterback and getting a proven guy on the field like Deshaun Watson to carry this team to where they think they can go. But ultimately, the story is still about how much time will he be suspended. Mm-hmm. This is a great contract for him. This is a great deal for Cleveland from a football standpoint. But there's more to come, I think, from the league and how they determine how to go forward with Deshaun Watson in this particular season. And we may not be talking about this 2 years from now, but this year is very poignant.
Yeah, so there's a lot up in the air, right, until we actually hear from the league and if there is going to be any punishment for Watson going forward. But, Tim, I want to go back to something Jeremy said, and that is this could have like a Rams-type, Matthew Stafford type of impact on the Cleveland Browns. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think in some ways could be more significant than that. And, you know, I guess it's funny to say that considering the Rams just won the Super Bowl. But, look, Matthew Stafford, in fairness, it's kind of an up and down season for him prior to the postseason with how things worked out. Deshaun Watson, okay, I don't think you can argue him out of being a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. Like, you know, and oftentimes I think it's easy to say he's a top 5 quarterback. Like, he's that talented. He's been that good. And so because of that, now you add him to a team that has a really good defense. They've got a great runner. They've got a good offensive line. They just acquired a talented wide receiver. It's a really good football team, and Kevin Stefanski's an excellent coach. And so now you're adding a guy that is a top-tier quarterback to that team. Think of what an improvement it is. It's basically swapping out at the most important position in all of sports for a guy that really no one was positive could play at a starter level. Like, that's what they've just done. So, we can speculate about all the off the field stuff and, the time that is potentially going to be missed. But if you're just looking at it from a football perspective, the team got significantly better by adding one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to a degree. But look, the Browns completely underachieved last year. Are we going to really put all of that on Baker Mayfield? Marcus